This video is a wake-up call for you to do the things that you've always told yourself that you're gonna do. Don't lie to me, and more importantly, don't lie to yourself. There are things that you've always thought about doing, that you've always dreamt of doing, that you've always had listed in your New Year's resolutions or the plans that you have in your journal. And yet, after all this time, you still haven't done them. You've stalled and you've told yourself that, oh, I'm gonna do it tomorrow, I'm gonna do it in 5 hours, I'm gonna do it next week, next month, next year. You've always found a way to come up with an arbitrary number, an arbitrary date to stall yourself, to give yourself some leeway, excusing yourself that, oh, I'm going to educate myself first and make sure that I get absolutely everything right before I even begin. All those things are just excuses, because in truth, you're afraid. And if you're not afraid, then you're lazy. And if not that, then you're both. And I know some people are going to say, oh, that's a really privileged way of looking at it. Some people just don't have the resources. And yes, that's technically true. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things that you can do starting now to get yourself in a position where you can begin. There's always a starting point at the current place that you're at, and sometimes it's harder to find, but a lot of the times, I think, and I really believe this, deep down when we really want something, we know exactly what we need to do to start, and a lot of the times we can, but we really are deeply afraid of failure, of disappointing ourselves. We're deeply afraid of the risk and the amount of effort that it takes. And sometimes that laziness comes from that fear. It's not that you don't want to do these things necessarily. It's not that you're an absolute slob. It's that you're afraid of exerting this much and investing this much, only for all of it to crash and burn. Absolutely terrifying. And I would be lying if I said that I never found myself in that place. I need to hear this, as much as I think somebody out there, maybe you, needs to hear this too. Think about it like this. Your progress bar will not be progressing if you don't do anything to make it move. And that's such an obvious thing when you say it like that, but on the daily, we don't think about it that way. I want you to think about the things that you can do now, not the ones that you are aiming for in the long term, because I'm sure you can name a dozen different things and figure that out eventually, get there eventually, but you're not going to be able to reach those things if you don't do anything to get there. So what are the things that are laid out in front of you that you have in terms of resources, that you have in terms of the kind of person that you are, that you have in terms of access? Inevitably, there will be at least one thing. Grab hold of that today. As a personal anecdote, people always ask me, how do you know how to do this? How do you know how to do that? How do you know how to do all sorts of things? And the truth is, it came down to being bored, being curious, finding some sort of inspiration to try something, and then looking for the closest entryway, the lowest barrier for entry that I could find, and just take a stab at it. Just explore all the things that I could, that I was curious about, and see what sticks, see what I actually like, see what I fall in love with. There's this beauty that we tend to forget the older that we get when it comes to exploring curiosity as a form of play. I've encountered this with friends, with ex-girlfriends, with basically anybody really, where they try to explore something and try to immerse themselves into something, but with the added pressure that they feel like that needs to be their thing. They need to get really good at it, they need to fall in love with it immediately, they need to be passionate about it from the minute they begin. Not all things are like that. I'll admit, I'm very fortunate enough to be so curious about so many different things and so willing to try them that I just ended up being the way that I am because I'm wired to be that way, and that I was so lonely as a kid that I had so much free time to be able to invest in so many other things that didn't concern involving other people. Not everybody is like me, and I know that because I grew up feeling lonely a lot of the time. So I know that my perspective isn't the most common, but I think there's still that common truth in all of us, that the exploration of things that we're curious about, treated as play, as something that we could just like, oh hey, I'll dabble into that, let's see if it'll stick, let's see if I can even enjoy it. I don't have to love it, I don't have to like it, I don't have to be good at it immediately. But what if there's something there? We think that the results have to be so immediate, and it's scary because we know deep down that a lot of things don't come immediately, and the results don't come until much later. at least the results that we're looking for. You know, you want to start working out, and you expect to have a six-pack within a month. And it's not going to happen. Your goals will take a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of doing the right things, which, by the way, you still need to figure out what the right things are for you. None of these come immediately, but it's so hard to accept that when you're in the thick of it. But what's harder to live with is knowing that someday, if you don't start today, you'll end up wondering and looking back at this point and asking yourself, well, what if I had started then? What if I chose to do it at that moment and kept going? Where would I be? And the thing is, you can never know, because chances are time travel still doesn't exist and you can't find out, because you can't change what has already passed. You only have today. That's the only certainty that you have. Now, it's pretty reasonable for the most part to think that, oh yeah, I'm probably gonna wake up tomorrow to another day. But the truth is, at the end of it, you really don't know. And as dreadful and grim and negative as that sounds, that's not really what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to get at is that if you want certainty, if you're afraid of the things that you don't know will or will not happen, the only thing that you're certain about is this moment, right now. And you have all the power within yourself to just start. Not something that you're gonna say, oh, I'm gonna do it next month. No, I'm gonna do it today. Even just the littlest bit to get started. Picking up a new hobby, or taking care of yourself better, or starting to read for the first time, creating your first video, literally anything. There is that one step that gets the ball rolling. And even if the ball starts rolling really, really sluggishly slow, you started making it roll. If I didn't shoot on this here camera when I was a kid, not knowing what he was doing, really, I wouldn't be here doing this now. If I didn't start shooting my little Spider-Man action figure during one summer, I don't think I'd be here. If I didn't start jogging every night and doing 75 sit-ups every night when I was a little chubby kid, I don't think I would end up taking care of myself to the point where I look the way that I do now. If during the time when I didn't have a proper camera to shoot with, I didn't ask people that did, I would have never been invited on to join a production team that eventually got me into all of this professionally. For the longest time, I just borrowed people's instruments, borrowed people's cameras, because I didn't have my own money to buy it myself. And that's the thing, is that people that know me growing up, my family had pretty good money. But I was more often than not told by my parents, hey, you have to earn this, you have to save up your own money, you have to work for this. And so a lot of the things that I really wanted, the big ticket stuff, like a good editing laptop or a good camera or the instruments that I wanted, a lot of them I had to earn one way or another. During that length of time, I borrowed and asked and tried out different things, and that's how I started. I explored my curiosity within the means that I had access to. When I started working out, I didn't know anything. I still barely do, but I'm trying my best. I still work out every day because it's better than not doing it at all. My writings daily might not be perfect. My sketches daily might look like trash sometimes, but it matters that I'm doing it. It's better that I'm trying to progress at least 1% every day than regressing 1% every day. You get what I mean? I want you to internalize that exact same thing for yourself. There are a lot of things that I know you wish you had right now. There is a version of you that you wish you were right now. There's a life that they live that you wish you had. But the thing is, you're never gonna get there if you don't start doing the things that will take you to all those destinations. If you don't start developing the systems and refining the things that will actually work for you, that will help you. And the only way that you'll find out is if you keep trying and reiterating and applying and reevaluating and reiterating and doing it again and again until you refine things. That's easier said than done, and even as I'm saying it, I know it sounds tedious. But again, this is your wake-up call to at least start with something, one thing, today. Do 5 push-ups if you're looking to do something for fitness. Read 5 pages if you're trying to pick up a new book. Spend 5 minutes doodling or writing something, or spend an hour filming a 30-second video project. Figure out what you can work with right now. There's so many different ways to approach the things that you've always dreamt of. And it might not be the way that you wish you got into it. It might not be ideal one bit. It might not work the way that you envisioned it, but it's somewhere to start. Today is the day to start. Find your place, find that one thing that you want to do, and think about the way that you can start now. The most important thing that you should take away from this, aside from the immediacy, is that you have to believe that eventually all of this will work out. You have to believe, even just a little bit, because if you don't, then none of this will ever work. If you believe that all the things that you're doing are bound to fail, when something does fall through, that will affirm your belief. And then you might even self-sabotage. It sounds cheesy, but you have to believe. It's better to try now and be scared, but keep trying, and fail, but keep trying, than to never even take a single step, or never take any more steps past the first 100. It's better than living in what-ifs, and living in regret. It sucks, but you really need to be patient. You need to believe and be patient. And sometimes the thing that you might be trying might not work, in which case you need to review and you need to reiterate. But regardless, you have to keep that ball rolling. These things are never a straight line, or at least they hardly are. When you take these journeys, the part that makes it scary, but also really exciting and interesting stories eventually, is that it takes you on a winding road that goes up and down, left and right, goes in circles for a hot minute, makes you go back to where you began, only to realize that you should have taken the other turn. But again, you'll never know these things until you start walking. You have to put some faith in yourself. And if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in God, much like me, you have to believe, at least to an extent, that all of it will work out. It's easier said than done. But if you don't start, how do you suppose you're going to get anywhere? You can do this. You have to believe, and you have to start now. I hope that this helped empower you in finally starting the things that you've always wanted to, or going back to the things that you abandoned because you didn't see the results quickly enough. You got this. We all do. I hope this helped you. If it did, share it to somebody that might need to hear it, leave a like, and consider subscribing. It will really help out. And click the notification bell so that you know next time when I upload a video. If you want to follow me on any other socials, it'll be down in the description, at Sentient Poison on Instagram, and under Nicholas Lolin on literally everything else. I hope to see you again. I hope you start that thing, whatever that may be. Alright? Cheers.